وَاطْرَحُوهُ أَرْضًا. This is another suggestion that they give. Throw him away in the wilderness. Okay, let the animals eat him. Okay, and finally the last suggestion they agreed upon is what? What is the last suggestion they agreed upon? أَلْقُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. Okay, throw him in the well. Okay, then if he survives, okay. If he doesn't, okay. Okay, at least we've done our job of separating him from his father. And then after that, we'll have our father's attention solely directed towards us. Okay, so what is the plan that they came up with? What is the plan that they came up with to throw Yusuf alayhi salam in the well? No, this is afterwards. How did they even convince Yaqub to let Yusuf go? Okay, very good. He said, they said to Yaqub alayhi salam, they said to the father that let us go and enjoy ourselves. Okay, وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ, we're a group of strong young men, we can take care of him. Okay, Yaqub alayhi salam, he says, إِنِّي أَخَافُ أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ وَأَنْتُمْ عَنْهُ غَافِلُونَ. Okay, I'm afraid that a wolf is going to eat him while you're busy and you're not paying attention. Okay, in other words, some of the scholars they say it's as if Yaqub gave him the excuse that they're going to use afterwards. Okay, so they eventually convinced Yaqub alayhi salam and they took Yusuf alayhi salam with themselves to play. Okay, they gave the father the impression that they're playing, but what are they doing? They actually have a plot of murder in mind. Okay, some of the scholars and the commentators they mentioned that as they were going out in the wilderness, okay, 11 brothers ganged up against one. Okay, Binyamin obviously is not part of this. He doesn't agree to any of this. So 10. As they're going, they're pushing Yusuf alayhi salam around. Right? They're pushing him around. Okay? Yusuf alayhi salam, by the way, the scholars they mentioned, how old was he at this time? Does anyone remember? He was around 12. Okay? 12 years of age. He was very young. Okay? They're pushing him around. Okay? And when one would push him, another would push him. And they would push him in circles. Okay? And so they finally took him to the well. Okay? They took off his shirt and they threw him inside of the well. And this is where we will continue. فَلَمَّا ذَهَبُوا بِهِ وَأَجْمَعُوا أَن يَجْعَلُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. Okay? When they went with him and they gathered upon and resolved upon their plan to throw him in the depth of the well. And when they did that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. We gave some type of inspiration to Yusuf alayhi salam that you are eventually going to inform them of what they did when you are in the position of superiority. This أَوْحَيْنَا right here, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ. Okay? Was he a prophet at this time? Some of the scholars they say no, he was not a prophet at this time, because Allah mentions later on when he's in Egypt, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. When he reached his age of maturity, that's when we gave him prophethood and we gave him knowledge. So this wahi over here, okay, it's kind of like the wahi that was given to the mother of Musa alayhi salam. Okay? Remember the mother of Musa alayhi salam, she was also given a type of inspiration from Allah, but she was not a prophetess. Okay? She was inspired to take Musa alayhi salam, put him inside of the basket and place the basket in the Nile River and so on and so forth. Okay? So this is a similar type of wahi. They do the deed and they come back during the nighttime. وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ عِشَاءً. Okay? يَبْكُونَ. They come during the time of Isha. Okay? Come during the nighttime. Why do they come during the nighttime? Why don't they return earlier? Excellent, very good. So because it will cover up their sin more. Okay? It will place a cloak more on their action. Okay? And cover up their action more. They can hide better. So they came during the nighttime. And Yaqub mentioned in the narration that he was very concerned. He said, why are you coming back so late? And then finally he asked, where is Yusuf? I cannot see Yusuf. Okay, and so what did they say? وَجَاءُوا عَلَى وَقَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا إِنَّا ذَهَبْنَا نَسْتَبِقُ وَتَرَكْنَا يُوسُفَ عِنْدَ مَتَاعِنَا. This is what they said right away. يَا أَبَانَا, O our dear father, ذَهَبْنَا نَسْتَبِقُ. Okay? We went racing with one another. وَتَرَكْنَا يُوسُفَ عِنْدَ مَتَاعِنَا. And we left Yusuf with our provisions and our belongings. We told him to look after our stuff while we're having fun. Okay? فَأَكَلَهُ الذِّئْبَ. They use the same excuse that Yaqub alayhi salam, okay, gave to them. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا وَلَوْ كُنَّا صَادِقِينَ. You won't believe us even if we are telling the truth. Okay? In order to prove their truthfulness, what did they do? The shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam. By the way, the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam is an interesting shirt. Okay? There are three events connected with it in the story of Yusuf. What are these three events? Oh, very good. And the third? MashaAllah. Very good. It's mentioned in the books of Tafsir. The shirt of Yusuf is interesting because three events in the story of Yusuf are connected with it. Number one, the shirt was used to try to prove, the shirt was used by the brothers to try to prove, that the wolf ate him. Okay? And number two, the shirt was used to prove Yusuf alayhi salam's innocence from Imra'atul Aziz, okay? The wife of the nobleman in Egypt. And the third is the shirt was used to place on the face of Yaqub alayhi salam so his eyesight returned. Okay? وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ. They came with false blood on the shirt. What did they do? They took a small sheep or small lamb, they slaughtered it, and they put the blood of the lamb or the sheep, the lamb or the goat on top of the shirt. Okay? And they brought it to Yaqub alayhi salam and they said, look, this is Yusuf alayhi salam's blood. Okay? Yaqub alayhi salam looks at the sheep, looks at the shirt with the blood, and he said, what kind of wolf is this? It doesn't tear up the clothes. Okay? What kind of wolf it is that it eats the person whole and doesn't tear the clothes before eating the person? Okay? And so he says to them right away, بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أي بَلْ زَيَّنَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ. Okay? أَمْرًا. Rather, you have made something up. You've concocted a story. Okay? فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. I will be patient and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my helper in the lie that you are fabricating right now. Okay? So this is the story of what happened with Yaqub alayhi salam and the brothers when they came back. Now the story goes to Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay? وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ. Over here, sayyara means? Very good. Does not mean a car. Okay? Does not mean a car. وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ فَأَرْسَلُوا وَارِدَهُمْ فَأَدْلَى دَلْوَةً. Okay? Sayyara over here means caravan, a group of people who are traveling. Sara yasiru means to travel. Okay? وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ, caravan or a group of travelers. فَأَرْسَلُوا وَارِدَهُمْ. The warid over here refers to the person who is in the service of the caravan. He's like the servant. Okay? They sent him ahead and they were passing by a well and they said, we're thirsty, go find some water and bring some water to us. So he went to a nearby well and he found water inside of the well. فَأَدَلَى دَلْوَةً. So he sent down the bucket inside of the well. Okay? And as he's pulling the bucket up, lo and behold, instead of water coming out, what comes out? A boy that is clinging to the bucket. Okay? قَالَ يَا بُشْرَى هَذَا غُلَامٌ. Immediately he said, oh, okay, wow, this is a surprise that a boy came up instead of water. Okay? So first he was excited. First he was surprised at finding this young boy, but his excitement and surprise changed into a malicious thought. And that is that they are going to take Yusuf alayhi salam as a slave and then they will sell him and they will profit off of him. وَأَسَرُّوهُ بِضَاعَةً وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ. Okay? وَأَسَرُّوهُ بِضَاعَةً. By the way, this ayah has some interesting tafsir. Some of the scholars, they say that the people in the caravan, they saw Yusuf alayhi salam and they hid him as merchandise. And when they eventually reached Egypt, they sold Yusuf alayhi salam as merchandise. Some of the scholars, they say that when the caravan took Yusuf, okay, one of the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam used to come to the well and give him food regularly because he had some pity in his heart for his brother. And when he did not find Yusuf inside of the well, okay, he knew that somehow Yusuf had escaped. So he searched and he found that the people of this caravan, they had taken this boy, Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay? So when they found Yusuf alayhi salam with this caravan, what did they do? They sold Yusuf alayhi salam to the caravan. The brothers did this. Okay? The brothers sold Yusuf alayhi salam to the people of the caravan. And this is the interpretation that the scholars they give in the next ayah. وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ. They sold him thaman, for a price, bakhs. Bakhs means like insignificant, small. Okay? They sold him for a very small, paltry, insignificant price. دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ. Okay? Numbered silver coins, just a few silver coins. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. And they did not pay much attention to him. They were indifferent towards him. Let me ask you something over here, something that's important. The brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they found Yusuf again after he came out of the well. Why did they sell him for an insignificant price? Why didn't they decide to make money off him and sell him for a high price? Yes. Very good. You're on the right track. Okay, they wanted to insult him further. Okay, very good. Okay. Their mindset was just to get rid of Yusuf. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. They were zahidun towards Yusuf alayhi salam, meaning the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam. This is one interpretation. They didn't have any feelings towards him, most of them, except for the one that would bring the food. Okay? They were indifferent and negligent towards him. They just wanted to get rid of him, and their motive was to separate Yusuf from his father. Their motive was not to make money. So this is why they sold him for whatever price. In other words, sometimes you have a product, you just want to get rid of it. What do? Take it for whatever price you want, right? I don't care. Because you know that if you set a high price, that people are not going to buy it. So you just want to get rid of it. This was their mindset over here. They just wanted to get rid of him. Yusuf alayhi salam, he travels with the caravan all the way to Egypt. Where is Yusuf originally from? Where is Yusuf originally from? Yaqub alayhi salam, where is he from? Very good. Specifically in Palestine, called Canaan. Okay? Canaan. This is where they are from. Okay? So they traveled from that locality all the way to Egypt. Okay? When they arrived in Egypt, the caravan, they sold Yusuf alayhi salam also as merchandise. Okay? And they made money off of him, which is something wrong that they did. Okay? Because they took a man who was free, a person who was free, took him into bondage and slavery, and then sold the person and profited off of him. Who bought him? Okay? وَقَالَ الَّذِي اشْتَرَاهُ مِن مِصْرَ لِامْرَأَتِهِ أَكْرِمِي مَثْوَى. Okay? The person who bought him from the caravan in Egypt was known as Al-Aziz, which is a nobleman. Some of the scholars, they give his name as Qitfir. Qitfir is mentioned in the books of tafsir. His name is Qitfir. Okay, we're just going to use that name, or we're going to call him Aziz, the nobleman. It refers to the same person. Okay, when he bought him, he said to his wife, "Akrimi mathwa." In other words, make his residence good. Okay, make sure that he has comfortable place to stay inside of the house. Okay, "Asa an yanfa'ana aw nattakhidhahu walada." Perhaps we can benefit from him, or we can adopt him as a child. Okay, أو نتخذه ولدا وكذلك مكنا ليوسف في الأرض. And like that, we established Yusuf alayhi salam in the land. We gave him stability in the land. Okay, this is very interesting. And Yusuf alayhi salam, he comes from home of poverty in Canaan. Okay, and someone who's a stranger in another land, that person doesn't have stability in the land. Okay. You know, you have to make yourself stable and established in a certain place. You have to spend many years. Okay? You have to, buy property, education, so on and so forth. So many different steps you have to go through. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that we placed him in a noble household from the beginning. And we granted him that stability from the very onset. Okay? As soon as he entered Egypt. Okay. وَلِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ, so that we can teach him the interpretation of events. Interpretation of events can have two meanings over here. Either interpretations of dreams or interpretations of how to judge between the people. وَاللَّهُ غَالِبٌ عَلَىٰ أَمْرِهِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is dominant over his affair, however most people do not know. Some of the scholars, they mention in the books of tafsir that when the caravan was passing through the area of Yusuf alayhi salam, they lost their way. And this is how they stumbled upon the well. Okay? Now, Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi tells us Allah had planned all of this for them. Just like when Musa alayhi salam, he was leading the Israelites outside of Egypt, they lost their way and they ended up in front of the sea. This was all planned and decreed by Allah. People look at the apparent events and they say, oh, this is a coincidence or this is losing the way. But at the end of the day, this is all part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi. Allah is dominant over his decision. Can mean amrihi can refer to Yusuf alayhi salam's life or his own decisions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does what he wants. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. However, most people do not know. طيب. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ واستوى ولما بلغ أشده آتيناه حكما وعلما وكذلك نجزي المحسنين. When Yusuf alayhi salam reached the age of maturity, we gave him حكما وعلما. Okay? أي فهما وعلما. النبوة. Okay? We gave him prophethood and we gave him knowledge. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And anyone who acts in a similar manner, anyone who is patient, anyone who is righteous, then that person will be recompensed and rewarded in the same way. If you are muhsin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you that same reward that was given to Yusuf alayhi salam. Good result in the end. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Okay? Any things, before we go on to the next page, I'm going to do one more page inshallah from the tafsir. Any benefits that you can derive and think of? Yeah. Yes, good question. Some of the scholars, they say it was 33. Some of the scholars, they say it was 40. Okay, so around that age. Okay. Balagha shuddahu in this ayah refers to around that age. Okay. Any other things that you can think of? Yes.
He just came, right, to Egypt, but he's still a boy, but he will be mutamakkin in the land.
He'll be well established. Yes.
So, but the journey of him being, having authority just started. And the insight I get because Allah just said later, Allah has a plan for it. So the way I understand it, that being like weak now, but he's on a journey to become strong and
Excellent, excellent, very good, mashallah. Okay, he is weak now, but he's on a journey for strength and establishment, as we know later on that he will become the treasurer and he will be, overseeing the stores and, all of these things in Egypt. Okay, good. Well, subhanallah, this is one of the greatest tests when you receive animosity from your own family members. One of the greatest tests in life. Okay? Yusuf alayhi salam, he was a recipient of animosity from his own family. Own family members, they plotted and they planned to kill him. Okay? But Yusuf alayhi salam was patient. He did not, deal as an eye for an eye. Okay? He forgave them, as we all know, later on. Okay? What else? Very good. One more and then we'll move on. Anyone? Al-Qadi yahkum bil-qarina. Okay? The one who's a judge, I'll mention one. He makes judgment by a qarina, by some type of evidence. He doesn't make a judgment just by what the person is saying. Where do we learn this from? Where do we learn this from? Come on. In the story the page that we just covered. Yaqub alayhi salam, when he saw the shirt, right? That was the qarina. That was the evidence. His sons are telling him something else. His sons are telling him that a wolf ate him. Okay? He didn't accept the testimony of 10. He said, look, I have evidence that's going against the testimony of 10. Okay? So he looked at the qarina, he looked at the evidence. Okay? He looked at the bayina. Okay? And he said, this evidence is clearly going against this. Okay? So the qadi, he doesn't simply, or the judge, he simply does not go upon the statement of a person. Rather, he looks at the evidence, and based on that, he makes a judgment. Okay? Okay, very good. MashaAllah, he knows the dream. Okay? He knows the dream. Maybe Ya'qub alayhi salam at that point, he knew that Yusuf alayhi salam would be okay. So that's why he had that sabr inside of his heart, for sabrun jameel. Okay? All right, continuing to the next part. This is the next episode. Okay, so Yusuf alayhi salam's story is divided into episodes. The next episode is when they are inside of the house of the Aziz, okay, the nobleman inside of Egypt. Okay? وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك. Yusuf alayhi salam is a young man at this point. Okay? And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, I saw Yusuf alayhi salam and he was given half of all beauty. The remainder, the other half, was spread among the rest of humanity. Okay? So you can understand that Yusuf alayhi salam, he's in his prime age. He's young, he's handsome. Okay? And the wife of Al-Aziz, she has these feelings towards Yusuf alayhi salam. وراودته التي هو في بيتها. Okay? She tries to seduce him who was in her house. This is very interesting, the wording. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say she tried to seduce the one who was in her house? Why didn't Allah just say وراودته امرأة العزيز? The wife of the Aziz tried to seduce her. Excellent, very good. It's trying to tell us that, look, he is not just the wife of the Aziz. He was in her house. So if he's in her house, then she's in control. And to avoid the situation is far more difficult. There's a power dynamic over here, as you mentioned. She is the one in charge in the house. Okay? She has servants, she has slaves and everything, right? Whereas he himself is a servant inside of that house. So the temptation is there, but on top of the temptation, there's a great impediment of a lack of control. I don't have any control in the situation. Okay? عَنْ نَفْسِهِ, against his will. He did not want it. Okay? عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. Okay? غَلَّقَ, صيغة مبالغة. She closed the doors. She locked the doors. Okay? She made sure that there was no escape. There is some type of intensity in the meaning over here. وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ, and then she invited him to the act of immorality. قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. Yusuf alayhi salam, immediately what does he do? He does not rely on his own resolve and determination to escape the sin. And that is one of the greatest lessons that we learn. Okay? Don't rely on yourself to escape sin. Rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Yusuf alayhi salam is teaching us over here. Ma'adh Allah, I seek refuge in Allah. Okay? When you seek refuge and protection in Allah, Allah is the one who can take you out of the situation and protect you. If you rely on yourself, okay, then you are relying on someone who is weak. Because we as humans, we are weak and we are needy in front of Allah. Okay? And then, this is the first thing he does to remind her, by the way. First he seeks protection in Allah, ma'adh Allah. Okay? Then he reminds her of the favors that have been given to him. Inna Rabbi ahsana mathwai. Okay? My Lord has made my residence good. Okay? Over here, the word my Lord can have two meanings. It can mean Inna Rabbi, first meaning Rabbi Allah. Okay? My Lord Allah has made my residence good. Okay? Look where He's brought me. Okay? Another meaning over here, some of the scholars they mention, Inna Rabbi refers to the Aziz. Okay, the nobleman, Qatfir, that we mentioned earlier. Okay, he has done good towards me. Look, if he's done good towards me for so many years, at what age was he thrown in the well? 12, around 12. Okay, and the last time, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ شُدَّهُ آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا, around what age did he come? 12, 13, right? To the wife of the Aziz, to that household, the household of the wife of the Aziz. Okay, and then what age is he now? Around 33. to 20 plus years. Okay? And so he's trying to remind her and remind himself, look, I can't betray him like this. He's done so many favors to me. If I as a slave cannot betray him, then what about you as his wife? How can you betray him? Inna Rabbi ahsana mathwaya, innahu la yuflihul zalimun. Okay, the people who do wrong, they will never be successful. Okay, in the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions she did not desist, she did not stop. وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِي. Okay, she was determined to carry out the action. Okay, and she desired him. Hammat bihi. Okay, and the next reading is وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَرَّأَ بُرْهَانَ رَبِّي. And he would have desired her had he not seen some type of evidence from his Lord. In other words, he would have inclined towards her had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not protected him. What is the evidence that he saw? Some scholars, they mention that he saw Yaqub alayhi salam in front of him at that moment, telling him to stay away from the sin. Some scholars, they say that he saw an ayah written on the ceiling that لا تقربوا الزنا إنه كان فاحشة ومقتا إنه كان فاحشة وساء سبيلا. Okay, don't approach zina, don't come close to it. Some of the scholars, they say no, it was just his righteousness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had placed inside of the heart. Okay, and the prophecy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him, the strength of that iman, it made him desist and stay away from that action. Okay. كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. Like that, we turned away from him as-su', okay? Evil, and fahsha is immorality. Okay? Some of the scholars say su' and fahsha refer to the minor and the major sins. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him from that. And we also learn from this that if we seek protection in Allah, Allah will protect us. If we seek protection in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will protect us. إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. He is from our chosen and selected slaves. Okay, she continues and she wants to carry this action out. وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. So she approaches him. Okay, وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. Both of them, they race towards the door. Okay, وَقَدَّتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِنْ دُبُرٍ. And she grabs a hold of his shirt from the back. They're both racing towards the door, but they're both racing with different intentions. What is Yusuf's intention? To get out. What is her intention? To keep him in. Very good. And she grabs a hold of his shirt from the back. وَقَدَّتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِنْ دُبُرٍ. أي وَشَقَّتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِنْ دُبُرٍ. She ended up tearing his shirt. She grabbed him from the back and pulled, and the shirt was torn. Okay? He manages to open the door somehow. Okay? He manages to open the door. وَأَلْفَيَا سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ. وَوَجَدَ سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ. Okay? They found her master, okay, meaning her husband, سَيِّدَهَا, her husband over here. Allah says her master, لَدَى الْبَابِ. Okay? أي عند الباب, at the door. Okay? She's unnerved. She flips the script immediately. And she says, it wasn't me who was trying to do something wrong. It was him who was trying to seduce me. Okay? And it was him who was trying to make a move against me. قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. Immediately she says, what should be the consequence of someone who wanted to commit some type of immorality against your family member? Okay? Except that that person is placed in prison, or that person is tortured or punished with a severe punishment. Okay? So immediately she blames it on Yusuf. Yusuf alayhi salam would have, stayed quiet. But in order to protect himself from the accusation that is laid against him now, what does he do? قَالَ هِيَ رَاوَدَتْنِي عَنْ نَفْسِي. She is the one who tried to seduce me against my will. He defends himself. So it's his statement against her statement. Statements back and forth. Okay? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that in a court of law, okay, when the litigants, they come to the judge, okay, each one makes a statement. How do you determine? How do you determine who's true? Excellent, very good. Look at evidence. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-bayyinatu ala al-mudda'i. Okay? The burden of proof is the one who's making the claim. Okay? The burden of proof is the one who is making the claim. Okay? And this is where the proof comes in. وَشَهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا. A witness witnessed from her family. A witness from her family witnessed and said, إِن كَانَ قَمِيصُهُ قُدَّ مِنْ قُبُلٍ فَصَدَقَتْ وَهُوَ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ. If his shirt is torn from the front, then she's telling the truth and he is from the people who are lying. If the shirt is torn from the front, what would it mean? He was facing her, and what was she trying to do? Excellent. She was trying to push away, and she was trying to desist and get away. If the shirt is torn from the front, okay? And then he says, وَإِن كَانَ قَمِيصُهُ قُدَّ مِن دُبُرٍ فَكَذَبَتْ وَهُوَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. To give her the benefit of the doubt, okay, he mentions her scenario, her possible innocence first. And then he says, but if it's torn from the back, فَكَذَبَتْ وَهُوَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Then she's lying and he's telling the truth. Because that means that he was trying to run away and she was trying to grab him from the back. So what happens? Lo and behold, فَلَمَّا رَأَى قَمِيصَهُ قُدَّ مِن دُبُرٍ. When Ra'a refers to who over here? He saw. Al-Aziz, the nobleman, Qutfir, right? قَمِيصَهُ قُدَّ مِن دُبُرٍ. When he saw that his shirt was torn from the back, immediately he turned toward his wife. And he says, قَالَ إِنَّهُ مِن كَيْدِكُنْ. This is from the plotting of you type of women who want to engage in this type of immorality. Okay, kaydikun, he mentioned in the plural form, kun. Okay, inna kaydakunna azim. That this type of plotting from these type of women, this is something that is great. Okay, something that is serious matter. And then he says to Yusuf alayhi salam, okay, he tries to hush the case. Tries to make sure that it doesn't gain any publicity, because at the end of the day, what's at stake here? Reputation of his family, his own reputation. So he says to Yusuf alayhi salam, "Yusufu a'rid an hada." Yusuf, turn away from this. Quiet, ignore it. This is what he's telling Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay, "Wastaghfiri li dhanbiki innaki kunti min al-khati'in." Okay, and you, okay, he's speaking to his wife now. Seek forgiveness from your sin, for your sin. Surely you are from those people who committed a sin and made a grievous mistake. Okay? Okay, we're going to stop over here. Any questions? Some fawaid that you can think of. Some fawaid or benefits. Any benefits? Come on. Yes. Oh, very good. Some of the scholars, they mentioned this, that why did he tolerate this type of behavior from his family? Why did he tell her to simply seek forgiveness, and why did he ignore the matter? Okay, good.
Another thing that Allah protected the name of the wife, so he didn't say her name. So
Yes.
this is one of the things we observe, that it's the wife of that. So if he mentioned her name, which is something to separation or something, that name would be tainted like forever. And this is the lady. This is the name of the person who did that. But
Very good, mashallah.
it's anonymous for us, so we don't know her name.
Very good. Okay, we don't know her name mentioned in the Quran, but they have mentioned in the books of tafsir, right? Yeah, we don't know. Okay, we don't know for reality. Israeliyat, la tusaddiqu, la tukathibu. Okay, don't believe it and don't reject it. Okay, good. Okay, what else? Anything else? Yeah. Yes. Yes, that's Allah knows best who the shahid. That's why I did not translate the shahid. Okay, because there are a lot of different opinions. Okay, of who the shahid was. Was it a boy, baby boy that could speak? Okay, or something else? Allah knows best. Okay, when it comes to these things, they're from Israeliyat. What are Israeliyat? Judeo-Christian narrations. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ said that when you come across these narrations, don't believe them immediately and don't reject them immediately. Okay, just take them. Okay, just read them. They're good to pass through, but they can be authentic or they can be inauthentic. We don't know. Okay, unless they are verified by our sources. Okay, last point, and with this we'll conclude. Any other benefit? Yes. So Yaqub alayhi salam, the sister mentioned earlier, he knew that Yusuf alayhi salam would return because of the dream. Right? The dream had not been fulfilled. Okay? But it was the separation with Yusuf and what was potentially going on with Yusuf that caused him this distress and anxiety. And later on, what happened with Binyamin is also double that sense of grief. He ended up losing his eyesight. Right? So he knew that Yusuf alayhi salam would return because the dream had not been fulfilled. Okay? And the second part of the question, did I answer your first part? Okay, the second part again, how do we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us and we should just be patient or we should? Always make dua at the end of the day, right? I mean, let me just give you an example. Let's say there's a health condition with someone, right? There's a health condition. There's a possibility the person could be healed, okay? But it is marginal. It's not a great possibility, okay? There's always that element of hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You keep on making dua and you keep on hoping from Allah, okay? But then there's also, I mean, a realistical prognosis that people give based on, statistics and based on studies and these type of things. So there's that element of hope that you can compartmentalize and you can think that I can keep on making dua and Allah might grant it to me. But there's also part of you that you've compartmentalized and said that maybe this is my test in life and maybe I will have to live with it. What I'm saying is that those two feelings are not mutually exclusive. You can compartmentalize those feelings and you can have them at the same time. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right, any other questions? Yes, brother. Hmm.
And we know his origin. However, he already become a slave, but he become patient. He never get depressed. But I think that giving the summary at the end of the surah.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so that is the core theme that he mentioned. إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Okay, whoever is mindful of Allah, conscious of Him, and is patient in trials and tribulations in life, okay, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let the reward of the good doers go to waste. Okay? The core theme throughout the story of Yusuf is patience. Okay? Patience. Okay? Because Yusuf alayhi salam was put through so many trials and tests. Okay? And each one of them he exhibited some level of patience. Okay? That response we get from Yusuf alayhi salam. Patience, what does patience mean in a trial or test? What does it mean, patience? When we use that word, what does that mean? Yusuf is patient. What does that mean he was patient?
Accepting his fate.
So accepting the fate means you don't do anything about it?
Not to be bothered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judgment when you are.
Okay. Very good.
Huh?
Huh? Okay, that's one element of patience. That's a very crucial element of patience. And that is when you're faced with sin, right? When you're faced with sin and temptation, you don't give in to the temptation and sin. Okay? And the other one the brother mentioned is that sometimes things happen in life you don't have any control over. And you realize that you cannot change it. That's where you accept the fate. That doesn't mean you don't try to change it. Okay? That doesn't mean you don't try to improve your situation, but you realize that this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that if I don't abandon faith, don't abandon commandments and obligations of Allah at this time, I will be rewarded. That is the meaning of accepting the faith, that this is a test from Allah. I need to be patient in the sense I need to continue to worship Allah through the test. Because some people, when a test comes in their life, what is the first thing that goes out of their life? Deen. Right? The first thing that leaves their life is their, some people, not all people, most people are, inshallah, Muslims are good, okay, but they abandon the faith, okay? Their religious practice goes, okay? Part of patience is that a person continues to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's as-sabr fil masa'ib, as-sabr, right? Anil ma'asi, okay? Patience from sins. And then as-sabr ala ta'at, being patient in doing the obedience or carrying out the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala under all conditions, okay? Does that answer your question? Okay, all right. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Faizan, he will continue next time, okay, from this ayah that we stopped. What ayah did we stop at? Does anyone remember? We started the ayah number 30.